Time in central Iowa because it is high school football time and pep rally time, brought to you courtesy of BMW of Des Moines. And you recognize a couple of familiar faces here at the desk, of course. Tony Anzetti over there, scruffy man over on the far side there. You look good though, Tony. I like the growth.
Shave November. I'll fight through it.
That's really cool. You're doing, of course, the cop man, Larry Collar, and we have Chris Cuellar from the Des Moines Register joining us. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, so you guys, I'm going to probably sit back and just listen to you guys because you guys are the experts when it comes to high school football because we are right in the middle of it, aren't we, Cop Man?
We are. I mean, right now we got into the semifinals. I was in Albia the other day, saw a great game between Albia and South Table, which I was telling these guys. You know, they ran the ball the whole time. It's like 50-minute first half. We're done by 9 o'clock. I mean, it was great. But no, Albia played very well. #1 team in Class 2A. Now, they don't play till Saturday.
Okay.
So we're going to get into like 8-player right now. I think, should we just start there? Let's just start with 8-player.
out there, of course.
That's the first games.
Yeah. Now, Chris, you follow every one of these games or not?
I will be. I'm not heading up to Cedar Falls until tomorrow, so I'll be covering some of that stuff. But yeah, you got to write a little bit of everything. So even 8-player in the small schools.
Okay, I'll give you a little tip. Okay,
Yeah.
a little tip for everybody out there watching too. Our sister television station, Channel 19, KDMI, has all the games on TV today.
Going to be flipping that on as I'm working today.
All right, from 9 in the
Absolutely.
morning till like 10 o'clock tonight.
So you don't even need to drive up to Cedar Falls.
No, I'll just cover games from my couch. It'll be great.
Well, the one thing about Class A player, when it first started out, it was like arena football. The scores were in the 50s, 60s, and 70s to win. Last year proved a lot about the involvement of the Class 8 player game. I mean, that game everybody said first 1 to 30 because both teams could play defense. The defenses have caught up with the offenses in the 8-player game, especially with the good teams. So everybody who goes up there expecting the scoreboard to be lighting up, it's not that way when it gets to the semifinals as much. Now it could, but the chances are it's a really 8-man game has really evolved to play and look a lot like the 11-man game on the football field now. It's been great to watch it how it's done, and we got a couple of really good. I mean, the 8-player field's got a lot of perennial powers. You talk about Don Bosco and Newell Fonda, Marcus Merritt and Cleghorn's won a title in the last 5 years. So I mean, and Glidden Ralston's won one back in 2005. So, but this is a big one. I mean, I think this is going to be a fun one to watch.
Well, these are the last 2 state champs.
Yeah.
I mean, Newell Fonda beat Don Bosco 37-36 last year. And I was looking at the numbers of, stats. Don Bosco's outscored their opponents by an average of 68-9.
Whoa.
68-9. Think about that. And Newell Fonda, which has 3 shutouts this year, have outscored their opponents 46.5 to 15.5. So, I mean, these are 2 teams that have rolled over their competition. And so,
in the Register rankings, we had them taking on #2 in the quarterfinals, and they beat them by 48. So Newell Fonda's a different level of competition. Obviously, defending champion should be a better game, but the 9 a.m. game with a team that is putting up, 70 points per outing, it could be pretty tough.
And remember the story of Newell Fonda, last year's state champs. They were 0-3 when the season started. They ran 10 straight. Now they've run 12 more straight this year. They were my #1 preseason, but the way Don Bosco was playing, I flipped him down to 3 and moved Don Bosco to 1 because Newell Fonda had a couple of games that weren't quite as impressive. And everybody remembers Jake Hogan at Don Bosco. I mean, he was a 3-year starter, and last year's injuries hurt Don Bosco really from winning that state title. So people tell me this team is better than those teams with Jake Hogan. And they were some pretty good football teams in Don country. So if Don Bosco's better than when Jake Hogan was there, and it's going to be a tough matchup for anybody in 8-player because he was really a standalone player out there for the Dons.
All right, what do we have next?
then you've got Glidden Ralston and Marcus Merritt and Cleghorn. And I'm looking, Glidden Ralston again, you talk about defense, they allow yet less than 9 points a game.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good one between the hash mark type of game and an 8-player game. It really should.
Yeah, this one should be, and then the other, and MMC, I'll just call them MMC, it's a lot easier to say. They outscored their opponents 50-16. So
that's crazy.
I think you've got all these things. You got these disparities. You don't have teams beating their opponents by like 10. You got to beat them by 40 and 45. So
you can't tell people not to watch something, but if you really want to see some great games in 8-player, you kind of have to wait a little bit until late in the season. And at the UD Dome, it's always usually pretty competitive. And I think, both coaches for MMC and Glidden Ralston, been there, done it before, experienced guys, should be a fun one.
The hardest thing is if you're going to watch on TV, of course you want to on Channel 19. that you're going to see the yard lines when one team on one end of the field gets to the end zone. It's going to be the 20-yard line. So remember, midfield in the 8-player game is the 40-yard field. So some of those yard line markers you're going to look on TV on the field won't be exactly what it is in the game.
They throw tape down on the field, and then they wheel in some field goal posts into the end. And
I haven't seen it, really?
They wheel them in and wheel them out depending on the game. So yeah, it looks pretty funky. But
some guy with some masking tape, the blue tape. Anyway,
you definitely know it's not 11-player football.
All right, next on the list, Copman.
Now we go over to 3A, and you've got Norwalk and Sergeant Bluff Luton, and you've got classic defense Norwalk against classic offense Sergeant Bluff Luton, which averages 43 points a game, and on the other side, Norwalk allows 12. So, and you have Brady Bradsfield, who's a terrific player.
Yeah, outstanding quarterback for Norwalk, 3-year starter. He's been great, and who's going to win this one? And it's two opposite styles. Sergeant Bluff scored 129 points in their last 2 rounds in the playoffs. I mean, that's lighting up the scoreboard. 3A is one of those classes every year that is so wide open, and I think when you look, we see 2 teams we expected to be there, but you also have 2 teams, I don't know if before the season anybody expected to be there, and that's Norwalk and Sergeant Bluff Luton, Chris, don't you think?
Both have pretty great losses, though. Norwalk's only loss came to number 1 Pella. Sergeant Bluff Luton's only loss came to Lewis Central, who made the quarterfinals in 4A. Sergeant Bluff Luton's got, as you mentioned, the explosive offense. The running back Matt George is kind of their star. He's one of only a handful of players in the state of Iowa to ever run for 2,000 yards in back-to-back seasons.
Wow.
So they're going to
he missed 2 games.
Yeah, so they're going to put him
20 touchdowns.
They're going to put him against a Norwalk defense that I saw them in Grimes last Friday in the quarterfinals. 6 sacks of DCG, held them under a yard per carry. They got 2. Technically, Sonny Onken's a linebacker. They play a 3-4 defense, but they got 2 defensive ends that are going to rush the passer, pull up the edge. 6'6", 250, 6'5", 250. And they're
high school kids.
Yeah, high school kids, and they're playing Class 3A football.
Wow.
So,
well, the thing about and Tony talked about the offense in the playoffs. In their 2 playoff games, Sergeant Bluff Luton, they defeated Carroll 72-47, and Webster City 55-35. By the way, they were down 21 at the half against Carroll. In 2 games, 18 touchdowns.
And the thing is, you talk about George as a running back. Their quarterbacks run for nearly 1,000 yards. So he can pass and throw. So they're going to have to try to contain one. You can't you're not going to stop both of them if you're Norwalk, but you got to make one make a decision and not the other. Who do you want to not beat you? And I think that'll be kind of what their defense is going to focus on, to slow that Sergeant Bluff offense down. If they can win that battle, then Norwalk's got a shot because of their defense. And their offense is not that bad. I mean, Brady Bransfield's an outstanding passer. They'll get some things done. It's just not prolific like some teams are in 3A. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, let's get over to the Pella game if we can.
Yep. Pella taking on West Delaware, Manchester, and the story of this game is Noah Claiborne. I mean, there's no doubt. I look at the numbers on him. He's thrown for 1,333 yards and 19 touchdowns, and run for 1,338 yards, 23 touchdowns. So my Missouri math tells me that's almost 2,700 yards of total offense and 42 touchdowns. This is a guy who can get it done, guys.
And he's only played half the season, really, up through the quarterfinals.
Another one of these things.
They blow out so many teams that he doesn't even have to play. Yeah. So I think that the quarterfinal was the first time he's had to play a whole game all year long, and it was at Davenport Assumption, and he had over 400 yards offense and 7 touchdowns in the only game that he's had to play 4 quarters.
Wow.
So pretty special player, pretty special team. I'm not sure that they're as big, strong, or fast as they were last year, especially up front when they went undefeated and rolled to the state title, but maybe makes this run more impressive because they're still pulling away from teams and look great.
And I think Pella winning that state title last year kind of woke everybody up, because they are just traditionally a basketball school, and all of a sudden now, oh my goodness, here they are in football. And if Noah Claiborne was playing for Dowling or Valley as quarterback, you'd hear a lot more about him, because he's one of those guys. He may not be the prolific quarterback, this drop back pass, but he's the guy that they put him in that spot because they want the football in his hand as much as possible because of his decision making. He can run, he can throw, and he knows to get his teammates involved. And he's got Henry Kidd as one of the top receivers in the state. He's got a lot of weapons to go there, but he is so good at controlling a football game. He's going to be fun to watch.
Pretty good running back in Nathan Perry too. 13 touchdowns.
All right, folks, and And again, you can catch all the action on our sister station, Channel 19. That's KDMI. Starts a little after 9 o'clock this morning and goes all day and then all night long. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. That is so cool. And let's run down, let everybody know where everybody's going to be at. Tony, where can people find you?
Well, of course, I'll just be on Facebook, and you can look me up at Seni, A-T-Z-E-N-I, Tony. Also, I'll tweet a little bit there, but it's another world. I'm going to be doing the Grandview game with Mark Amadeo this Saturday down in Oskaloosa, so I'll get to do some Grandview football too. So I'll be busy around, and I'll be heading up to the Dome on Friday to watch the semifinals in Class 4A.
All right, Cotman.
Well, of course, I've got Kotler and Company tonight on 1350 ESPN from 6 to 7. Steve Prohm's going to be on the program.
Excellent.
Iowa State
Good.
Basketball coach. Jimmy Small.
Oh, really? Oh, because he'll tell you later on.
Yeah.
Listen to his show later on. He'll tell you what Jimmy's doing that is really bizarre.
My buddy Jim Walden's going to talk a lot about college football, and then we're going to talk with John Vyers from the Des Moines Community Playhouse about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And then I've got Drake basketball on Friday night. Better be there Friday night against Simpson. It's the season opener. 7 o'clock at the Knapp Center.
And Chris?
I'm heading to the Dome. You can find all our stuff at DesMoinesRegister.com. I'll be covering games tomorrow and Saturday, so Valley Dowling, I'll be there. Andy Hamilton has us covered today. And then Twitter at QuayarChris, just like it sounds.
You got it all covered. Thank you, man. Nice to meet you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me come in.